They say the past is written in stone, but what if some of those stones were buried on purpose? Beneath layers of earth and silence lie discoveries that defy everything we think we know about human history. Artifacts that don't belong, ruins that shouldn't exist, and technologies that seem impossibly advanced. Each time one surfaces, it raises questions no one wants to answer. And each time it's quietly dismissed, forgotten, or hidden away. Tonight we dig deeper. For the next 2 hours, you'll journey through some of the most forbidden archaeological discoveries ever unearthed. Find a quiet place, close your eyes, and prepare to question everything they've ever told you. The great Sphinx of Giza, enigmatic and eternal, sits beneath the Egyptian sun, its gaze fixed eastward, its silence older than the sands around it. It has watched empires rise and fall, kings crowned and forgotten, and yet it keeps its secret, a legend of a hidden chamber buried beneath its ancient pores. For decades, whispers have told of a hall of records, a lost archive of human history sealed beneath the Sphinx. This isn't just myth or fantasy. It's a theory that has drawn the attention of rogue archaeologists, independent explorers, and even NASA-funded geologists. Their question is simple. Could a forgotten vault lie beneath the Sphinx, preserving the knowledge of a lost civilization, perhaps even pre-human history itself? The idea of this hidden library traces back to the American mystic Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet. He claimed that beneath the Sphinx rests a time capsule left by the survivors of Atlantis, a vault containing scrolls, devices, and knowledge from a world long erased. Mainstream scholars dismissed it as nonsense. Until the 1990s, using ground-penetrating radar, researchers Thomas Dobecki and John Anthony West scanned the bedrock surrounding the Sphinx. Their results were stunning. Rectangular cavities, perfectly geometric, beneath its pores and along its sides. These weren't natural voids. They were deliberate chambers. Yet instead of excitement, the discovery met resistance. Excavations were halted, permits revoked, and the official statement declared, "The Sphinx is solid. There are no chambers." But the data didn't lie. Why the denial? Some say it was about national pride or control over Egypt's historical narrative. Others believe the truth ran deeper. Perhaps those chambers hold evidence that could rewrite everything we know about our origins. Then there's the question of water. Geologist Robert Schoch observed deep vertical weathering on the Sphinx's enclosure walls, erosion caused not by wind and sand, but by heavy rainfall. Egypt hasn't seen that level of rain for over 10,000 years. That would mean the Sphinx predates the Egyptian civilization itself by millennia. If true, it wasn't built by Pharaoh Khafra in 2500 BCE, but by someone else, someone lost to history. That single revelation shatters the conventional timeline of civilization and suggests a forgotten epoch of human achievement, wiped away by cataclysm and time. In that light, the legend of the Hall of Records no longer feels like myth, but a faint echo of a buried truth, and so the questions remain. Why are researchers forbidden from exploring beneath the Sphinx? Why are official excavations restricted, their results buried? Some say secret footage exists, workers lowering cameras into narrow shafts near the base, glimpsing strange carvings and objects that never saw the light of day. Insiders whisper of symbols unlike any known language, tools made of unknown materials, and artifacts quietly removed and hidden in archives no one can access. It sounds like conspiracy, but the silence surrounding it speaks volumes. Some claim powerful nations gained partial access to these discoveries, their findings classified and concealed. The theory suggests a global effort to suppress evidence of advanced civilizations that existed long before our recorded history. Because if such knowledge were proven real, it would mean the human story is far older and far more complex than we've been told. If a civilization capable of carving the Sphinx existed before the Ice Age, what else might they have left behind? A lost technology, a forgotten science. The library beneath the Sphinx, if it truly exists, could hold the answers, records of cataclysms, celestial knowledge, even remnants of technology beyond our understanding. Some believe that knowledge has already been found, studied, and locked away, not because humanity isn't ready, but because those in power fear losing control of the narrative. And so, the Sphinx watches still, weathered, silent, eternal, a guardian not just of tombs, but of truths. Beneath its gaze may lie one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of all time. Is the Hall of Records real, or just an echo of an ancient longing? Perhaps one day we'll know, or perhaps we already do, and have simply chosen to forget. It was the year 1900, off the rocky coast of the Greek island of Antikythera. Sponge divers descended into the dark blue of the Mediterranean, where the remnants of a Roman-era shipwreck lay undisturbed for over 2,000 years. Among the statues and broken amphorae, they found something strange, a lump of corroded bronze fused with stone. It looked worthless, a meaningless hunk of metal. Yet inside that mass, history held its breath. Years later, in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, archaeologist Valerios Stais noticed gear-like teeth embedded in the bronze. He suspected it was some kind of mechanism, a bold claim for the time. Decades passed, and technology finally revealed the truth. Through X-rays and CT scans, scientists uncovered an astonishingly intricate network of gears and dials inside. The device could track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, predict eclipses, and calculate Olympic cycles. The Antikythera mechanism, as it's now called, is the world's first known analog computer. But it shouldn't exist. Its complexity surpasses anything else from the ancient world by thousands of years. It contains a differential gear, a technology not seen again until the 16th century. No other devices like it have ever been found. No writings describe its creation. It appears fully formed, a technological singularity from a forgotten age. Who built it? How did they achieve such precision without modern tools? And why did that knowledge vanish? Some scholars believe it was a lost masterpiece from the Greeks, perhaps inspired by Archimedes. Others suspect it was inherited knowledge from a far older, unknown civilization. If so, it means history has gaps, entire chapters torn out. The more scientists study the mechanism, the deeper the mystery grows. It wasn't decorative, it was functional, crafted with mathematical perfection. One gear even has exactly 223 teeth, representing the Saros cycle of lunar eclipses. This was a machine built by people who understood both engineering and the heavens long before telescopes existed. So what happened to them? If this was once part of a greater technological tradition, where are the others? It's as if the ancient world reached a peak of knowledge and then forgot. The Antikythera mechanism stands as a lonely survivor of that lost genius, a whisper from a vanished age when humans may have known far more than we remember, and perhaps, like the Sphinx, it's one more clue that our past isn't lost, it's just been buried. They say the past is written in stone, but what if some of those stones were buried on purpose? Beneath layers of earth and silence lie discoveries that defy everything we think we know about human history. Artifacts that don't belong, ruins that shouldn't exist, and technologies that seem impossibly advanced. Each time one surfaces, it raises questions no one wants to answer. And each time, it's quietly dismissed, forgotten, or hidden away. The Antikythera mechanism is one such mystery. When sponge divers off the coast of Greece discovered the corroded bronze fragments in 1900, no one realized they had found what would later be called the first computer. Decades later, X-rays revealed an astonishing array of interlocking gears and complex ratios designed to track celestial movements, predict eclipses, and map planetary cycles with incredible precision. But while history calls it an ancient Greek artifact, the deeper question remains: who made it, and where did such knowledge come from? Some theorists suggest the mechanism was the masterpiece of a singular genius, perhaps Archimedes himself, a man of mythic invention who allegedly created automata and machines far beyond his time. If true, This could have been a one-of-a-kind marvel lost when its creator died. But others see something more. The mechanism's refinement doesn't feel experimental. It feels perfected. Like an iPhone isn't Apple's first device, the Antikythera mechanism doesn't feel like a prototype. It feels like the culmination of a long, forgotten technological lineage. So where did it come from? And what does its existence mean for our understanding of history? That's where the theories darken. Some researchers believe there was once an entire school of scientific thought, perhaps in the Mediterranean, perhaps beyond, that was deliberately wiped out, erased by conquerors, zealots, or natural catastrophe. Others see the Antikythera mechanism as part of a global pattern, one that connects the pyramids of Giza, the precision stonework of Machu Picchu, and the celestial alignment of Göbekli Tepe, a pattern of ancient knowledge that resurfaces in ruins, myths, and monuments, not as legend, but as legacy. Even mainstream historians are beginning to question the neat, linear story of human progress. What if technological advancement isn't a constant climb, but a cycle, a wave that rises and crashes again and again? Civilizations might have reached unimaginable heights before collapsing into silence, their achievements buried beneath time. The Antikythera mechanism could be the smoking gun of one of those forgotten peaks. The shipwreck that carried it still lies beneath the Aegean, protected now by law and monitored by underwater drones. Divers continue to return, searching for more fragments, more gears, more inscriptions. And every piece they find deepens the mystery instead of solving it. It's as if the sea itself guards the mechanism's secrets, as though some knowledge resists resurfacing. But the most haunting part is this. The mechanism wasn't found in a temple or a tomb or a library. It was discarded, lost in a shipwreck. It wasn't treated as sacred, it was just cargo. What if there were dozens of them? Hundreds? What if this wasn't a miracle of innovation, but a routine product of a civilization we no longer remember? The Antikythera mechanism isn't an outlier, it's a keyhole. Through it, we glimpse a forgotten chapter of human ingenuity, a time when our ancestors may have understood the heavens with mechanical precision, a chapter we never knew existed. And behind that keyhole, in the shadows of history, the minds that built it still wait to be rediscovered. High in the Bayan Kara Mountains on the border of Tibet and China, another enigma waits. In 1938, a Chinese archaeologist named Chi Pu-te reportedly led an expedition deep into a series of caves where he found hundreds of small skeletons, fragile, short, with unusually large skulls. But it was what lay among them that truly defied reason. Over 700 circular stone discs, each 9 inches wide, with a precise hole in the center and spiral grooves etched across their surfaces. The markings weren't decorative, they were microscopic inscriptions, winding inward like a coded message. These artifacts, later known as the Dropa stones, were stored away in secrecy. It wasn't until the 1960s that a professor named Tsum Umnui at the Beijing Academy of Ancient Studies claimed to have deciphered them. His translation told an astonishing story. The discs spoke of a race called the Dropa, beings who had crashed on Earth from another world 12,000 years ago. Stranded in the mountains, they sought refuge in the caves, clashing with local tribes before eventually finding peace. The academic world erupted in outrage. The translation was condemned, the professor disgraced, and access to the discs revoked. Some say he was silenced, others say he fled. The artifacts vanished from public record, yet the story refused to die. Photos began to surface, grainy images of spiral-carved discs in small Chinese museums. Visitors swore they saw them before they, too, disappeared without explanation. Decades later, the German researcher Hartwig Hausdorff traveled to the region. Locals told him legends of the Dropa, small, star-born people who came from the sky. No peer-reviewed studies confirmed the tales, but the story lingered, persistent, impossible to erase. If the Dropa stones were real, they would change everything. They would suggest that humanity's story doesn't begin and end on Earth. Hausdorff claimed one translation read, "The Dropa came down from the clouds in their aircraft. When our people saw the signs and knew they came in peace, we joined hearts with them." It's poetic, mythical, but not unique. Cultures across the world tell similar stories. Beings from the stars, the Dogon people's Nomo from Sirius, the Hopis' ant people, the Sumerians' gods descending from the heavens. Are these just myths repeating by coincidence, or fragments of a shared memory humanity has carried through time? Whether the Dropa stones are myth, misinterpretation, or suppressed truth, their story embodies a pattern: discovery, dismissal, disappearance. Every time forbidden knowledge surfaces, it's buried again. And then, in the jungles of Costa Rica, came another riddle carved in stone. In the 1930s, banana plantation workers clearing land stumbled upon massive granite spheres, some as small as a baseball, others over 2 meters wide and weighing 15 tons. Perfectly round, perfectly smooth. Scattered across the landscape in clusters and geometric alignments, they appeared as if placed with purpose. But by whom and why? Workers blew some open with dynamite, hoping to find treasure. There was nothing inside. Archaeologists dated them to somewhere between 600 and 1500 CE, but no one knows how they were carved. The indigenous Baruka people had no oral traditions about them. There are no inscriptions, no temples, no records, only silence. Some alignments match solstice points, others seem random. Were they astronomical markers? Territory boundaries? Messages to the gods? Or something we no longer have the language to understand? Decades later, the stones still stand in the jungles, mute, perfect, defiant. Like the Sphinx, like the Antikythera mechanism, like the Dropa stones. They whisper of a forgotten intelligence, a memory buried in the dust of time. Perhaps history isn't missing pieces. Perhaps it's hiding them. And then, as if to guard their secrets even more carefully, many of the Costa Rican stone spheres were moved. As fascination grew, collectors, museums, and city officials uprooted them from their resting places. They were placed in gardens, town squares, and the lawns of private estates. In doing so, their original positions, perhaps aligned to the stars, the sun, or something more abstract, were lost forever. Whatever patterns they once formed, whatever messages they once encoded, were erased by human curiosity. Yet the haunting truth remains. No one knows what these spheres were for. Were they astronomical markers, tools for tracking celestial events, or maps of migration? Were they symbols of spiritual power, ceremonial objects, or something far beyond our comprehension? A coded message in stone? The more archaeologists studied them, the less certain they became. The spheres refused to yield their meaning, smooth and perfect, silent and immovable. Like so many forbidden discoveries, they have inspired endless speculation. Some claim they were created by a forgotten civilization far older than recorded history. Others link them to Atlantis or to visitors from beyond the stars. Mainstream archaeologists reject these ideas, yet the mystery persists because the stones themselves invite it. Their perfection feels intentional. Their silence feels deliberate. They seem less like artifacts and more like questions carved into granite, asking us to remember something we've forgotten. The official explanation ties the spheres to the Diquis culture, a pre-Columbian people who once lived in southern Costa Rica. Skilled in goldwork and stone carving, the Diquis left behind jewelry, tools, and statues, but nothing approaching the sophistication of these spheres. How could a culture without iron tools shape solid granite and andesite with such uncanny precision? Some researchers suggest they hammered the stones with smaller rocks and polished them with sand. But that theory collapses under its own weight. How could primitive tools have created hundreds of spheres so perfect they rival modern machine work? Transportation is another enigma. Some of the stones weigh over 10 tons and were found miles from any known quarry. With no evidence of wheels or beasts of burden, how were they moved? Rolled across the jungle floor? Floated down rivers? Or was there some method, some technology, now lost to time? These questions echo the mysteries of other megalithic sites. The pyramids of Giza, the stone platforms of Easter Island, the temples of Malta. Each stands as an isolated miracle, yet together they form a pattern that hints at something larger, something shared. Many of the spheres appear to have been arranged deliberately, forming lines, triangles, and constellations. Some align with the rising or setting sun during solstices. Others seem to reflect astronomical relationships or sacred geometry, as if mapping the heavens onto the earth. Certain measurements even suggest the builders understood complex mathematical ratios, pi, or perhaps the golden mean. If true, the implications are staggering. A civilization once existed in Central America, with knowledge far surpassing what we credit them for. But perhaps the greatest tragedy isn't what we don't know, it's what we've forgotten. When the spheres were unearthed in the 20th century, many were rolled away, sold, or destroyed. By scattering them, we destroyed their context, the very clues that could have explained them. In our eagerness to own the mystery, we erased its meaning. Today, Costa Rica is trying to restore what remains. A UNESCO World Heritage Site now protects the largest surviving group at Finca 6, where visitors can walk among the ancient stones in their original arrangement. Archaeologists study them carefully, measuring, mapping, hoping the earth itself might still whisper their story. But even here, among the humid air and rustling palms, the spheres stay silent. Why were they made so perfectly? Why placed in such deliberate formations? Why do they seem to embody meaning without revealing it? Sometimes, standing before them, you can almost sense that they are waiting, not to be understood, but to be remembered. And so, the journey moves onward, from the jungles of Costa Rica to the cradle of civilization itself, where another enigma lay buried in the sands of Mesopotamia. In the early 1930s, archaeologists working near Baghdad unearthed a small clay jar, unlike any other. It was roughly 5 inches tall, sealed with asphalt, and contained a copper cylinder surrounding an iron rod. It seemed unremarkable, until Wilhelm König, director of the Baghdad Museum, proposed something extraordinary. The jar was a battery, a 2,000-year-old electrical device capable of generating current. The idea seemed impossible. Electricity in the ancient world? Yet when researchers built replicas filled with vinegar or grape juice, the devices worked. They produced small but measurable voltages, enough to electroplate gold or deliver a faint shock. It was as if a spark from the modern age had flashed across millennia, hidden inside a lump of clay. Skeptics dismissed the claim. They argued it was a coincidence, a simple vessel for scrolls or sacred oils. But the design was too precise to ignore. The iron rod insulated from the copper, the asphalt seal creating a perfect chamber for chemical reaction. Too deliberate to be accidental. Then came an even darker twist. In 2003, during the chaos of war, the Baghdad Museum was looted. Among the missing items was the original battery itself. Whether destroyed, stolen, or hidden in a private collection, no one knows. The world lost not just an artifact, but perhaps a key to understanding ancient science. If the Baghdad battery truly was electrical, then our timeline of technological progress collapses. It suggests that humanity discovered electricity, used it, and then lost it, centuries before Benjamin Franklin ever flew a kite. Some believe the battery was used for electroplating gold or silver onto jewelry, which could explain why ancient artifacts sometimes display impossibly thin, uniform coatings. Others point to old temple legends describing objects that sparked when touched or repelled the hand, dismissed for generations as myth. But what if those myths were memories, echoes of forgotten science? Even in ancient Greece, Thales of Miletus wrote about static electricity from rubbed amber. Knowledge doesn't always move forward. Civilizations rise, burn, and fall, and with them their wisdom turns to dust. Maybe the Baghdad battery was not an isolated miracle, but a fragment of an older, vanishing tradition, a flicker from a world already forgetting its own brilliance. Perhaps that's what unsettles us most. We want to believe progress is linear, that we are the pinnacle of human achievement. But what if we're just another wave in an endless cycle, rising, shining, and falling again into darkness? The Baghdad battery may be gone, but its legacy endures, not as proof of ancient electricity, but as a challenge to our arrogance. It whispers from history's shadows, "You are not the first. You will not be the last." And so the silence of the past hums faintly still, like static in the dark, waiting for those brave enough to listen. And yet, perhaps the ancients grasped electricity only in fleeting, fragmented ways, small sparks of insight that never fully ignited. Or maybe the truth is simpler and far more troubling. The archaeological record is incomplete, not because the evidence never existed, but because it hasn't been found, or because someone doesn't want it to be. This is where speculation begins to spiral into conspiracy. Many theories are too wild to be accepted as fact, but they all grow from the same unease. Something about our past doesn't quite add up. The Baghdad battery sits at the center of that feeling, a symbol of forgotten innovation, lost potential, and the unsettling possibility that ancient civilizations were far more advanced than we dare to imagine. As the night deepens, and the flicker of candlelight dances like that first ancient spark of power, a haunting thought remains. What if electricity is not a modern marvel, but a rediscovered secret? And if that's true, what else lies buried beneath the sands, waiting not for discovery but for belief? In the sun-scorched plains of modern-day Pakistan, near the meandering Indus River, the ruins of a city stand in silent defiance of time. Its name is Mohenjo-Daro, the Mound of the Dead. When archaeologists uncovered it in the 1920s, they did not find a primitive settlement, but the remains of an astonishingly advanced civilization. Straight, gridded streets stretched across a meticulously planned metropolis. Multi-story brick buildings rose above drainage systems more sophisticated than some in cities today. There was even what appears to be a public bath, perhaps the world's first sanitation complex, built more than 4,000 years ago. How could such complexity exist at such an early point in human history? The timeline of civilization strains under the weight of Mohenjo-Daro's brilliance. But among its crumbling bricks and empty courtyards lies a mystery that has sparked both wonder and fear. The mystery of the bodies. Dozens of skeletons were found scattered across the ruins, not carefully buried, but sprawled in streets and alleys, as if something catastrophic had struck without warning. Some lay clutching one another. Others seemed to have fallen mid-step. Stranger still, the bones reportedly showed traces of radiation far above natural background levels. The soil around them, too, was said to be radioactive. There are no uranium deposits in the region. No modern contamination, no logical explanation. And so, a chilling theory emerged. Could Mohenjo-Daro have been destroyed by an ancient nuclear blast? At first glance, the idea sounds absurd until you look closer. Some sections of the city show signs of intense heat. Bricks fused into glass, stone melted as though exposed to temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius. There are no volcanoes nearby. No evidence of a fire large enough to account for the damage. Whatever happened here was sudden, total, and unnatural. Mainstream scholars attribute the city's fall to floods, drought, or shifting rivers, all reasonable, all safe, but none explain the vitrified stone. None explain the radiation. None explain the frozen postures of the dead. And then there are the ancient texts. The Hindu epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, speak of divine weapons that could destroy entire cities with light and fire. One passage describes a projectile charged with all the power of the universe, exploding in a column of flame brighter than 10,000 suns, leaving the ground scorched and bodies unrecognizable. Survivors, it says, washed themselves in rivers to escape the heat. These words were written thousands of years ago, yet their imagery echoes modern accounts of nuclear devastation. Are they mere myth or memory? Could the weapons of the gods have been the remnants of forgotten technology? Some researchers think so. They believe Mohenjo-Daro may have been caught in a prehistoric war, one that ended an age of advanced civilization long before recorded history began. Others go further still, suggesting that non-human intelligence, extraterrestrial visitors, may have brought both knowledge and destruction to early mankind. Whatever the truth, Mohenjo-Daro stands as physical evidence of something that doesn't fit the conventional story. Its ruins speak of genius and catastrophe intertwined. Its skeletons whisper warnings from a time when humanity, or something like it, played with forces it didn't fully understand. And perhaps that's why the mystery remains buried. Because to accept it means accepting that progress is not a straight line. It rises, peaks, and collapses over and over again. As the imagined city fades into night, we move across continents to another buried legend, this one in the deserts of Nevada, where wind and dust conceal yet another forbidden secret. 20 miles south of Lovelock, a limestone cave yawns from the hillside, dry, silent, and unremarkable. But inside Lovelock Cave, miners in the early 1900s uncovered something that would unsettle American archaeology for more than a century. They had come looking for bat guano. Instead, they found relics, woven baskets, tools, weapons, and bones. Giant bones. Some skeletons, early reports claimed, were over 7 feet tall. A few were rumored to approach 9 or 10 feet. Their skulls were massive, their jaws wide, their proportions unmistakably human, but of impossible scale. Archaeologists arrived and began excavating. They confirmed that the site was ancient, dating back nearly 4,000 years. But they dismissed the talk of giants as myth. Yet the local Paiute people had long told stories of the Siteka, a race of red-haired, man-eating giants who once terrorized their ancestors. The Paiute legend says the tribes united, driving the giants into a cave, setting it ablaze, and sealing the entrance forever. That cave, they say, was Lovelock. And indeed, within the cave, researchers found remnants of fire, weapons, and what appeared to be human hair, reddish in color. Some said it was proof, others said it was coincidence. Over time, the most extraordinary finds, the supposed giant skulls and bones, disappeared. Some were said to be sent to museums, others to universities, but no one knows where they are now. Official explanations blame misidentification, poor record-keeping, or the discoloration of hair over time. Yet the pattern is familiar. Stories of giant skeletons surface again and again across North America. Burial mounds, riverbanks, caves, all describing the same thing. Giant bones found, photographed, then gone. The Smithsonian itself is often accused, though never proven, of having quietly collected and hidden these remains. Whether true or not, the result is the same. Silence, Lovelock Cave remains today, a hollow in the desert wind. Archaeologists still visit, but the legends linger stronger than the science. Some say when you stand inside, the air feels heavy, as though the cave remembers what once happened there. A battle, a fire, the fall of something enormous, from the deserts of Iraq to the ruins of Pakistan, from the jungles of Costa Rica to the caves of Nevada. A single theme echoes through time. Human history is not a straight path, but a labyrinth. Civilizations rise, reach impossible heights, and vanish. What remains are the fragments, the whispers, the anomalies, and maybe that's the real secret. The truth of our past was never lost. It was buried because some stones were never meant to be turned, while the desert winds swept over Lovelock Cave and buried its secrets beneath centuries of dust. The deeper mystery was never just what was found, but what happened afterward. In the years following the excavations, the artifacts and skeletal remains were catalogued, boxed, and dispersed among institutions. And slowly, the story of Lovelock's giants began to fade from memory. What had once filled newspaper headlines with talk of prehistoric giants and tribal legends became something far more mundane in official reports. A simple archaeological site, stripped of wonder. Museums displayed baskets, tools, and duck decoys, yet the bones that stirred the most controversy quietly disappeared. Some were reportedly lost through mishandling, others destroyed, and the largest skeletons vanished completely. Independent researchers, retired archaeologists, and curious locals tried to track them down. They filed records requests, combed through archives, and searched museum warehouses. Again and again, they hit dead ends, missing documentation, mislabeled boxes, polite denials. The deeper they looked, the clearer it seemed that someone, somewhere, had quietly buried not just the remains, but the story itself. This silence gave rise to a theory of suppression. Proponents argue that the existence of giant humans, or any species that doesn't fit our evolutionary chart, threatens the foundations of modern anthropology. It would challenge Darwinian evolution, migration models, and the clean, linear story of humanity's rise. When discoveries don't fit the paradigm, they're not debated, they're dismissed. Not necessarily through grand conspiracies, but through quiet institutional inertia. The anomalies are shelved, ignored, and eventually forgotten, yet the legends refuse to die. The northern Paiute still tell stories of the Sitaka, the red-haired giants who once lived among them. Some elders insist that Lovelock Cave was not their only refuge. They speak of similar beings in the mountains of Nevada, Utah, and California. Whether seen as monsters or gods, these beings were described as towering, cannibalistic, and ultimately defeated by humankind. Are these just symbolic myths about survival and dominance, or faded memories of something real? When a new investigation revisited Lovelock Cave in 2014, researchers brought modern tools and open minds. They found no giants, but they did find proof of massive fire damage, charred soil, scorched ceilings, layers of soot, exactly as described in the Paiute legends. Whatever happened there, something or someone was indeed burned alive inside that cave. Then there's the matter of the hair. Samples found in the cave were distinctly reddish, a color rare among Native American populations. Mainstream archaeologists attribute this to centuries of chemical bleaching, but genetic studies of early North American remains have hinted at complex ancestry, with traces of now extinct hominid lineages like the Denisovans. Others speculate that the giants were survivors of a cataclysmic event, remnants of a lost civilization. The legend of Lovelock's giants connects to global myths, echoes of the Nephilim from the Bible, the Titans of Greek myth, and the red-haired giants said to inhabit faraway islands and mountain ranges. Across the Pacific, in South America, and even in the British Isles, stories persist of enormous copper-haired beings who once ruled and were eventually destroyed. Could these myths be fragments of a shared prehistoric memory, a story humanity once knew but forgot? If they ever existed, where did they go? Did they vanish through natural extinction, or were they deliberately wiped out? The cave remains mute. Dust fills its hollows. The air feels older than time, and as you stand in the silence, you can almost imagine the echo of footsteps, slow, heavy, inhuman, fading into the dark. But the mystery doesn't end in Nevada. Thousands of miles away, across the dunes of Egypt, another enigma stands, one so vast and ancient it has defined mystery itself. Under the blazing sun of the Giza Plateau, the Great Pyramid rises from the sand, immense, impossible, eternal. We're told it was a tomb, a monument to Pharaoh Khufu, but no mummy was ever found inside. No inscriptions, no funerary goods, no hieroglyphic prayers, only empty chambers, cold precision, and an engineering brilliance that still defies explanation. For generations, Egyptologists have insisted the pyramids were royal tombs, yet alternative researchers have long suspected otherwise. Engineer Christopher Dunn proposed a theory as bold as it is controversial, that the Great Pyramid was not a tomb at all, but a machine. A power plant built to harness the natural energies of the earth. The structure's design is unlike any other. 3 main chambers, one beneath the ground, one at the heart, and one high within the core, connected by perfectly aligned passages. No hieroglyphs, no decorations, pure geometry and purpose. Dunn theorized that the subterranean chamber acted as a resonator, capturing vibrations from the Earth's crust. These vibrations traveled upward through the Grand Gallery, amplifying their frequency. At the top sat the king's chamber, constructed from granite rich in quartz, a material known to generate electric charge under pressure. The so-called sarcophagus within was precisely cut to resonate sound, while the chamber's dimensions matched acoustic ratios found in modern sound engineering. Dunn believed the pyramid once generated and transmitted energy, hydrogen gas from the Queen's chamber reacting with Earth's natural frequencies to produce piezoelectric power within the granite, far-fetched perhaps. Yet certain anomalies refuse to fit the orthodox story. Some stones near the pyramid's base show scorch marks and discoloration, as if exposed to extreme heat. Sensitive instruments have detected subtle vibrations within its lower chambers, as though the pyramid still hums faintly with the earth. Its alignment to true north is more accurate than most modern constructions, off by mere fractions of a degree. Its proportions encode mathematical constants, like pi and the golden ratio, and then there's the missing capstone. Ancient records suggest it was made of electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver, both highly conductive metals. If the pyramid truly functioned as an energy device, that capstone might have been its conductor, its lightning rod to the heavens. But it's gone. No one knows when or why it disappeared. Inside, narrow shafts run from the chambers at perfect celestial angles, aligning with Orion's belt and Sirius. They were once dismissed as ventilation tunnels, but their precision defies that purpose. When small robotic probes were sent into these shafts, they discovered sealed limestone doors with metallic fittings. Behind one was another door, no further exploration allowed. Whatever lies beyond remains off limits, locked away beneath the stone. The craftsmanship of the pyramid also raises questions. The interior walls are machined to a flatness more precise than modern industrial standards. The granite blocks fit so tightly that a razor blade cannot slip between them. Spiral drill marks etched into the rock suggest the use of advanced tools, far beyond the capacity of copper chisels. So who built it? How did they do it? And what knowledge have we lost since? Perhaps the pyramid wasn't designed for death, but for life, a monument to energy, balance, and cosmic resonance. Some geologists believe the Giza Plateau itself vibrates with harmonic frequencies. Could the pyramid have been tuned to amplify those natural vibrations, acting like a massive crystal oscillator connected to the planet's pulse? If so, then the Great Pyramid was not just architecture, it was technology. A living instrument of stone, humming once in tune with the earth. And if that's true, one haunting question remains. Why was that knowledge erased? Maybe it wasn't aliens or hidden gods. Maybe it was us, our ancestors, who built wonders we can no longer comprehend. And maybe buried beneath sand, silence, and disbelief, they left us reminders, not of their deaths, but of their power. A pyramid that once sang with the earth. A cave that once held giants. A city that once burned in nuclear fire, each whispering the same truth. History is not what we think it is. It's what remains after we've forgotten. The Great Pyramid of Giza may not be a tomb at all, but the relic of a civilization that came long before the dynastic Egyptians, perhaps survivors of a forgotten cataclysm whose knowledge once spanned the earth. The Egyptians, inheriting these colossal structures, may have simply repurposed what they found, weaving them into their own religious and funerary traditions without ever fully understanding their original purpose. Some suggest that the real suppression of this truth is far more modern. During the height of colonial exploration, early Egyptologists, intent on preserving a tidy narrative of linear progress, dismissed any evidence that contradicted the accepted story. The notion that an earlier civilization could have possessed technology or engineering skill equal to or beyond our own was simply too disruptive. To admit such a possibility would mean rewriting not just Egyptian history, but the entire story of human civilization. And then, the whispers grow stranger. Rumors of classified research, of intelligence agencies investigating pyramid energy, of military projects studying resonance and electromagnetic fields around ancient sites, scalar waves, earth harmonics, energy generation without combustion or wires. Hard evidence is elusive, yet the persistence of these claims suggests that the mystery of Giza still attracts attention from those who suspect it hides something more than stone and sand. Ultimately, the Giza power plant theory forces us to confront a deeper question, not just about history, but about ourselves. If an ancient people once mastered the forces of energy and vibration in ways we've yet to rediscover, what does that mean for the story we've been telling? What if the Great Pyramid is not an isolated wonder, but a node in a vast, ancient network, a planetary grid of monuments that once resonated together in harmony? Sites like Teotihuacan in Mexico, Baalbek in Lebanon, and Angkor Wat in Cambodia may not be coincidences, but pieces of the same forgotten design. As the desert night falls and the wind hums softly across the plateau, imagine the pyramid not as a tomb, but as a beacon, its chambers alive with vibration, its quartz core humming with energy, its missing capstone once glowing beneath the stars. A machine not for death but for life, waiting for someone, perhaps us, to remember how to awaken it again. Beneath the surface of the East China Sea, off the coast of Yonaguni Island, Japan, another mystery sleeps beneath the waves. In 1986, a local diver named Kihachiro Aratake was exploring the seabed when he stumbled upon something extraordinary. A vast stone structure stretching over 150 meters long and nearly 25 meters high. At first, it appeared to be a natural rock formation. But as Aratake swam closer, he realized the truth was far stranger. The structure had right angles, terraces, staircases, flat platforms, and precise passageways carved with geometric perfection. News spread quickly, drawing scientists from around the world. Some dismissed it as a quirk of erosion, a geological accident sculpted by time. But others, like marine geologist Professor Masaki Kimura, saw evidence of intelligent design. After 15 years of study, Kimura concluded that the Yonaguni monument was the remnant of a man-made city, submerged when rising seas swallowed coastlines at the end of the last ice age. More than 10,000 years ago, he described stone roads, terraces, and even a pyramid-like formation, alongside carvings that seemed to resemble ancient scripts. Columns and gates hinted at ceremonial architecture. If Kimura was right, the site would predate every known civilization on Earth, built when humans were supposedly still living in small, scattered tribes. That single revelation would overturn everything we know about the dawn of civilization. Skeptics argue it's all natural. Sandstone fractured by tectonic shifts, carved by ocean currents into accidental geometry. But even they can't explain the symmetry, the straight edges, the precision. Some divers report seeing what looks like a carved face, its features unmistakably human. Others claim to have found the remains of pathways leading away from the main structure, disappearing into the sand. If Yonaguni is truly man-made, then it may be the last surviving fragment of a civilization drowned by the rising seas, a Pacific Atlantis. Some link it to the mythical continent of Mu, said to have vanished beneath the waves, or to a lost maritime culture whose descendants seeded the world's first cities. Even more intriguing are the parallels. Across the globe, from the megalithic walls of Peru to the celestial stones of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the same architectural precision appears again and again. Massive stones cut with mathematical perfection, structures aligned to the stars, civilizations separated by oceans, yet somehow speaking the same language of geometry and light. Could Yonaguni be part of this global pattern, a clue to a lost world that once circled the planet before the seas reclaimed it? The deeper divers go, the stranger the echoes become. Off the coast of India, sonar scans in the Gulf of Cambay reveal similar underwater ruins buried in silt. In the waters near Cuba, pyramidal structures have been spotted thousands of feet below the surface, far too deep to be built by any known culture. Each new discovery adds weight to a possibility most archaeologists fear to acknowledge, that history as we know it is incomplete. And maybe that's the real reason Yonaguni remains controversial. To accept it would mean rewriting the story of humanity from the ground or ocean floor up. It would mean acknowledging that civilization may not have started 6,000 years ago, but tens of thousands of years earlier. In a world erased by water, local legends from Okinawa and the Ryukyu Islands tell of a time when gods and giants walked the land, when temples touched the sea, and when the ocean swallowed a once great kingdom. The fishermen of Yonaguni call the site Iseki Point, meaning the ruins. For generations, they have spoken of strange lights beneath the waves, of sounds that seem to vibrate through the sea itself. Despite decades of debate, the site remains unexcavated. There are no large-scale underwater digs, no major grants, no government-backed exploration. It sits in silence, waiting. Some say politics is to blame. Others say fear, the fear of what it might reveal. Because if the monument truly is a city, then everything we believe about who we are and where we came from must change. Maybe that's why these stories of pyramids, power plants, giants, and lost cities persist. Not because they're convenient myths, but because they touch something deep and instinctive in us. The quiet suspicion that we are not the first, that there were others before us, brilliant, powerful, and human in ways we can barely imagine. Perhaps that's what these discoveries are really about. Not proving the impossible, but remembering the forgotten. So as the last bubbles rise through the dark waters above Yonaguni, imagine those ancient terraces glowing once again under the sun. Imagine people walking there, people who built, who dreamed, who vanished. And imagine what it means if their story is our story too, because maybe the past was never lost. Maybe it's been waiting all along, for us to dive deep enough to find it. They say the past is written in stone. But what if some of those stones were buried deliberately so that we would never find them? Beneath layers of sand, earth, and silence lie artifacts that don't fit the story we've been told. Ruins that shouldn't exist, technologies that seem impossibly advanced for their time. Each time they surface, they raise questions no one wants to answer. And each time, they're quietly dismissed, forgotten, or hidden away. But tonight we're bringing them back into the light. For the next 2 hours, you'll journey through some of the most forbidden archaeological discoveries ever unearthed. Find a quiet place, close your eyes, and prepare to question everything you've ever been told about human history. Under the scorching Egyptian sun, the great Sphinx of Giza gazes eastward, its time-worn face weathered by millennia of wind and sand. It has watched empires rise and fall, kings crowned and entombed, and the desert reclaim what humanity built. Yet for all its majesty, the Sphinx remains an unsolved riddle, not only for its age and craftsmanship, but for the persistent legend that whispers of a secret chamber hidden beneath its colossal paws. This isn't just myth or fringe speculation. For decades, explorers, mystics, and even NASA-funded geologists have sought to answer a question that refuses to die. Could there be a hidden archive buried beneath the Sphinx? A hall of records preserving the forgotten knowledge of a civilization that existed before recorded history, perhaps even before humanity as we know it. The idea traces back to mystic Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, who claimed that beneath the Sphinx lies a chamber containing scrolls and artifacts from Atlantis, remnants of an ancient culture destroyed by cataclysm. Most dismissed his words as fantasy, but in the early 1990s, something remarkable happened. A team led by geophysicists Thomas Dobecki and John Anthony West used ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the Sphinx. What they found shocked them. Clear evidence of rectangular cavities, hollow spaces beneath the monument's front paws and flanks. Not natural voids, but man-made chambers. The discovery should have rewritten history. Instead, it was quietly buried. Egyptian authorities halted further study, restricted permits, and declared publicly, "The Sphinx is solid. There are no chambers." But the radar data told a different story. Why the denial? Some say national pride, a desire to protect Egypt's historical narrative. Others believe it runs deeper, that the Sphinx hides evidence of a civilization far older than the dynastic Egyptians, one whose existence would shatter everything we know about human origins. Supporting this idea is another anomaly, the erosion on the Sphinx's body. Geologist Dr. Robert Schoch found that its deep vertical weathering patterns could only have been caused by heavy rainfall, not wind or sand. But Egypt hasn't seen such rainfall in over 10,000 years. That would place the Sphinx's construction long before the rise of pharaohs, before Egypt itself. This suggests that the Sphinx may not be an Egyptian creation at all, but a legacy, an inheritance from a lost civilization erased by time and flood. Suddenly, the legend of the Hall of Records doesn't sound so impossible. It feels like a clue, left behind by survivors of an ancient world. What knowledge could such a civilization have left beneath the Sphinx? Advanced technologies? Celestial maps? A record of humanity's true beginnings? If the chamber exists, its contents could change everything we believe about our past. Yet every attempt to explore beneath the monument has been blocked. Researchers and institutions from around the world have petitioned Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities for permission to investigate, only to be denied. Officially, there's nothing to find, but unofficial reports tell another story of secret boreholes drilled in the early 1990s, of footage showing cameras lowered into dark chambers, of strange carvings and artifacts quietly removed and hidden from view. Some insiders claim the findings were extraordinary, symbols unlike any known language, tools made of unknown materials, and objects suggesting technologies long lost to history. If true, it's possible those artifacts were hidden again, not by the ancients this time, but by modern hands. Why? Because the implications are staggering. If an advanced civilization existed before Egypt or Sumer, then human progress isn't linear. It's cyclical. Civilizations may have risen and fallen long before recorded time, each leaving traces buried deeper with every cataclysm. Theories even suggest that the United States, through covert agreements and academic partnerships, obtained limited access to these discoveries. Some claim that what lies beneath Giza is not merely historical, it's technological. Knowledge so powerful that controlling it could reshape geopolitics, energy, and religion itself. And then there's the possibility that this knowledge isn't lost at all, that it's already been found, studied, and classified. Hidden away not because we aren't ready for it, but because those who hold it aren't ready to share it. The Sphinx, eroded and eternal, still watches in silence. Its gaze seems to ask, what are we afraid to uncover? Perhaps the Hall of Records is not a myth, but a mirror, reflecting what humanity has chosen to forget. It was the year 1900. Off the rocky coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, a team of sponge divers descended into the blue depths of the Mediterranean. Beneath them lay a Roman-era shipwreck, resting undisturbed for 2,000 years. Among marble statues, amphorae, and fragments of ancient cargo, they found something strange, a corroded lump of bronze and wood, encrusted with centuries of salt. At first, it looked worthless, but inside that twisted mass, history was waiting to breathe again. In 1902, archaeologist Valerios Stais noticed gear-like teeth embedded within the bronze. He suspected it was a machine, an impossible claim for an artifact over 2,000 years old. For decades, the find was ignored, but modern X-rays revealed the truth. Inside that lump was a system of over 30 interlocking gears, arranged with breathtaking precision. The device could track planetary motion, predict eclipses, and chart lunar phases with mathematical perfection. The Antikythera mechanism, as it came to be known, is now recognized as the world's first analog computer. But that description doesn't capture its true enigma. It wasn't merely advanced, it was out of place. It shouldn't exist. The mechanism was built around 150–100 BCE, yet it contains technologies not seen again for nearly 2,000 years. Its gear ratios are so precise, they reflect astronomical constants known only through modern science. One wheel has exactly 223 teeth, the number of months in a full eclipse cycle. It accounts for the moon's elliptical orbit, something humanity didn't officially rediscover until the invention of telescopes. Who built this device? And where did their knowledge come from? Mainstream scholars credit the ancient Greeks, perhaps inspired by Archimedes. But there are no other examples like it. No simpler precursors, no rough prototypes, nothing. The mechanism appears suddenly, fully formed, as if plucked from another age. Then it vanishes from history, its technology forgotten. Some believe it was the creation of a singular genius, maybe Archimedes himself, an invention that died with its maker. But others see it differently. The mechanism's refinement suggests it was not a prototype, but the culmination of generations of progress, a final masterpiece of a civilization already in decline. If true, it may not have been an invention at all, but a memory, a remnant of knowledge handed down from an even older world. The more we study the Antikythera mechanism, the clearer it becomes that it doesn't fit neatly into our story of progress. It's like discovering a smartphone in a medieval tomb, an impossibility made real. Perhaps that's why it continues to haunt scientists and historians alike. What if this device is more than an artifact? What if it's a clue? A glimpse into an era we've forgotten, when human hands, or something like them, understood the cosmos in ways we're only beginning to rediscover. Beneath its rusted gears lies a question that echoes through time. How many other miracles have we already lost to the sea, to sand, and to silence? And how many more wait, hidden just beyond the edges of what we're willing to believe?